There's a saying among the people of Vareth Prime: if you bring a friend into the wild, you bring your heart with them. I used to think it was poetic exaggeration, but that was before the day I almost lost my heart and gained something far more mysterious. My name is Thalen. I am a Zarithian of the Azure Crest, born beneath 3 suns and raised in a world that never sleeps. Our mountains breathe frost, our forests shimmer with veins of light, and our predators, well, we tell stories of them to frighten our young into staying close to home. Humans, though, they don't frighten easily. It was dawn when I took Noah out to the Silver Plains. The air was bright and thin, the ground covered in glass-like grass that chimed when you stepped on it. He'd been asking to see the wild since he arrived, saying something about feeling the real world and getting off the main roads. I warned him. The plains weren't safe, not from the Skardra. The Skardra, our apex predator, was a creature out of nightmare and reverence alike. Imagine the strength of a polar bear, the grace of a great feline, and 3 tails that shimmer with static electricity. Each tail could strike like a whip. Each claw could tear through the alloy of a scout ship. Even our hunters rarely spoke of seeing one and surviving. But Noah just smiled that impossible human smile, the kind that said, "I hear your warning, but I'm going anyway." We walked for hours. The horizon stretched endlessly, the wind humming through crystalline grass. I showed him the sunflowers that floated instead of rooted, the geysers that sang when they burst, the long trails of light left behind by passing herds of sky serpents. He was fascinated by everything, every rock, every sound, every strange smell, and for a while, I forgot to worry, until the wind shifted. It happened so fast. One moment, Noah was beside me, pointing at a distant mountain. The next, a flash of silver light rippled through the grass, and a sound like thunder cracked the air. I turned, and he was gone. I called his name. No answer. My crest flushed pale with fear. My breathing quickened, my heart's pounding in uneven rhythm. I scanned the horizon, using my tracking implant, my ears tuned to the faintest vibration. Nothing. Then, a sound. Deep, resonant. A roar that made the air tremble. Skardra. My blood turned cold. The stories flooded my mind. Entire caravans torn apart, beasts that hunted not for hunger, but for instinct. And my human friend, fragile, unarmored, reckless, was alone out there. I sprinted across the plains, my claws digging into the soil, calling his name into the rising wind. My crest flashed panic silver. I sent a distress signal to my skimmer, ready to bring down plasma bursts if I had to drive the creature away. "Noah!" I shouted again, voice cracking through the storm. The plains were silent for a long, horrible moment. Then, faintly, I heard laughter, human laughter. I slowed as I crested the ridge. My pulse refused to believe what my eyes were seeing. There, in a hollow of crystal grass, sat Noah, cross-legged and grinning like a child on his first adventure. In front of him, the Skardra. Its body was immense, white fur rippling with violet energy, claws the size of my forearm, eyes gleaming like molten amber. Its 3 tails lashed lazily in the air, humming with arcs of blue light. And it wasn't attacking him. It was playing. Noah was tossing a small, glowing rock into the air, and the creature's cubs, 3 of them, bounded after it with clumsy, joyous leaps. When one stumbled, Noah laughed and reached out to scratch behind its ear. The cub purred, a sound like a storm settling into peace. I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. The mother Skardra turned her massive head toward me, ears twitching. I froze. Every instinct screamed to run. But then, she lowered her head and nudged Noah gently, almost possessively, as if saying, "This one is under my protection." He looked up and waved. "Hey, Thalen, you've got to see this. They're so soft." I must have looked like a statue carved from fear and disbelief. "Noah," I managed, Do you have any idea what you're doing? Making friends, he said simply. Turns out they're not monsters. They're just protective. I gave the mom some of our rations, and she let me meet the little ones. I blinked, speechless. He continued. She only attacked because we smelled like metal. Once I threw away the equipment bag, she calmed right down. Guess we humans just needed to smell a little less like spaceships. When the sun set that night, I sat beside Noah as the cubs curled up around the great Skardra mother. The wind whispered softly through the crystal plains. He stared up at the constellations and said, "You know, back home, we tell stories about lions and tigers. We used to think they were monsters too, until we learned to understand them." I didn't reply at first. The moment was too large for words. This human, this fragile being from a pale blue world, had crossed a boundary that no Zorithian ever dared. He hadn't conquered the wild. He'd befriended it. As the stars shimmered, I realized something profound. Maybe that's what humans truly are. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but the most fearless in their curiosity, and the most willing to reach out a hand, even toward fangs and claws. When we returned to the city, no one believed us at first. But when the Skardra mother followed us to the edge of the plains and let out a deep, mournful cry, a call of farewell rather than fury, they began to see. And I began to understand why humans are so dangerous in their gentleness. Because even our fiercest legends yield to their kindness. Now, every time I cross the Silver Plains, I remember that day. The place where fear met trust, where predator met friend, and where I realized that sometimes the universe doesn't need more conquerors, it needs more humans. Thank you for journeying with us through the wilds of Vareth Prime. If you enjoyed this tale, stay close, traveler. There are countless more stars to explore, and even more stories of the strange, the wondrous, and the profoundly human. Until next time, keep your curiosity bright and your heart open to the impossible.